Hello and welcome to Struggling Filmmakers. I'm doing the intro this time. How exciting, eh? So, as you all know, my name's James, and join with me, as always, we have got Emma.
Hello.
We have got Noah.
Hello.
And we've got Jimmy.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing?
Good.
Great.
As always, it's that time at the beginning of the episode. Anybody got any recommendations?
Me.
Go, Emma, go.
So, I went and saw Last Night in Soho last night. And James was right on the money, I'm afraid. I think if we'd done the Halloween episode this week, I would have definitely backed James up there. It's a fantastic film full of twists and turns. Edgar Wright has like his usual sort of comedic elements which fit really nicely into the film.
They're not like really overbearing this time around. They're quite organic the way it's done.
It definitely got me a few times as well in the cinema. So I won't say any more, but you have to go and watch it. It's a must see.
I watched 1958's The Revenge of Frankenstein, a Hammer horror film with Peter Cushing as Frankenstein. It was really good. I've been watching a lot of Hammer horror lately.
Was spooky season, to be fair.
Exactly. Some of it's crap, some of it's really good.
James?
Yeah, what?
You got anything?
Honestly, no. Last week, I basically watched a bunch of horror sequels that I hadn't seen before, but a lot of them I can't really recommend because they weren't all great. Like the best one was The Omen 2, which was just The Omen again with some cooler kills, but that's about it. So Shall we move on, people, to the actual episode? This is an idea I came up with for one of these episodes, similar to Screen Drafts. We're all going to have a big debate over some movies, which is always fun. I think this kind of episodes we like doing the most. So what we're going to do it as a bracket, as you can see behind me, kind of like this. So we each have two films, some of our faves of all time. No specific like genre or anything. We're just sort of going out the gate with any picks this time just to see if this format works. And if it does, then we'll do some more of it, maybe with a theme.
I hear you ask, how are we going to decide who goes where?
Well, I mean, if you know, it's spin the wheel. It's spin the wheel. There's no surprise anymore. We know what's coming.
You mean it's spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel.
It is spin the wheel. Everyone knows it. Everyone loves it. And now we're going to see it. Here it is.
So, as you can see, these are all of the films we've chosen. You'll have to wait to see whose is whose. We're going to spin and we're going to put them against each other. So, first heat, number 1 is...
Ooh.
It's thrilling.
Ooh.
Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs versus...
Wait, shouldn't you remove Silence of the Lambs?
It was removed before.
Yeah, it was.
Oh.
Castaway.
Oh, this will be tough.
You can see there's a bit of a tone difference between those two, but Castaway is quite dark, actually.
Right, heat number 2 is...
Wouldn't it be funny if it was Heat on Heat?
I was thinking that. No, it's not though, is it?
It's going to be 2001, A Space Odyssey versus...
Men in Black. Oh, no!
All right, heat number 3.
God, that's going to be tough.
Oh, I nearly picked Heat as well.
Here we go. And heat number 3 is...
Once Upon a Time.
I'll just put In the West.
Ooh. I was singing the theme. Mulholland Drive versus Men in Black. What a clash.
Means it's going to be Mulholland Drive versus Men in Black.
Right, so here we go. Silence of the Lambs, 1991. It won a bunch of Oscars, of course. Shall we list them off just to begin with, just to show you how amazing this movie is?
No one cares about the Oscars though, James.
No, they don't. But this is quite the acclaim because it won the big five, as you know. Silence of the Lambs, one of the best thrillers ever made, probably one of the best movies ever made. Has some absolutely stellar acting by Jodie Foster. You've got Anthony Hopkins in one of his most iconic roles. It is a fantastically shot film. It's got a tremendous score to it as well. Super, super sinister. I watched this movie for the first time completely blind, other than knowing it's a film about Hannibal Lecter. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know what that's about. And I didn't know there's a twist halfway through. And I didn't know it was coming. And when it did happen, I lost my mind. It was so good. Storytelling in that, the pacing in it.
There isn't a twist.
What's the twist? Yeah.
The twist is where Hannibal Lecter escapes. He has another mate's face on.
Oh,
I didn't know it was him. Yeah. So then now we bring it over to Emma to introduce hers, and then we'll open it to the floor.
Cool. So I chose Castaway, 2002, directed by Robert Zemeckis. Stars an amazing cast. We've got Tom Hanks as the lead role. He spends it's him mostly in the film, but we also have roles from Helen Hunt and Paul Sanchez. So basically, just got our lovely FedEx man. He gets stranded and he's sad because he's given his life to FedEx and the world on time, and suddenly he's not on time, and there's this real emotional connection between him and a volleyball, and I just don't think there's going to be a death scene or like Wilson's. So I think that really has stuck with me for life. I do think it's a great film, and it should be mentioned because, how much effort the whole crew and the cast put in. So obviously Tom Hanks, he let himself get a little bit podgy, get a little bit unkept for the sort of first bit. And then they halted filming for an entire year. Well, he lost 50 pounds and grew his hair out. And during that time, the director, Robert, he took the whole same crew and went and filmed What Lies Beneath.
Ooh.
So he filmed that at the same time. And then, so it obviously shows commitment to a film. It's a good film. I think it's really, real good, feel-good film. And I think it's important because when you have a film with just one person in, sometimes it can get a bit wishy-washy. But I don't think there's any wishy-washiness in this film. I think it's solid from start to finish, and you really see this wonderful character arc. I think it's a perfect example of that. But I also love Silence of the Lambs, so this is quite a horrible place to be in.
This is quite a mashup of films, Silence of the Lambs versus Castaway. You wouldn't usually put these two together, would you?
No.
James, you touched on Anthony Hopkins. But is his depiction the best Hannibal Lecter?
Well,
some argue not.
See, of course, you've got not only this depiction of Hannibal Lecter, but the two other iconic depictions are, of course, Brian Cox in Manhunter, and the other one is our boy Mads Mikkelsen in the titular TV series Hannibal.
Sorry, where's Gaspard USPL in that?
Yeah, all right.
Hannibal Rising?
No. I don't think I'll ever watch that movie.
I don't think anybody has ever watched that movie.
But what I enjoy about Anthony Hopkins' performance in this is, if you watch him at any point in this movie, you can see that he does not blink at any point.
Oh, sold. Good job.
No, but it's like some of the most iconic pieces of this film in terms of cinematography is characters staring directly into the camera in like an unbroken gaze to show the point of view of each of the characters. And as soon as the hierarchy changes, there's a video about this somewhere. As soon as the hierarchy changes within a scene, it stops going from like a dead-on view to like just a little bit side-on. Castaway is a great movie. I'm not going to deny that. I love it. However, Wilson only works in that one scene in terms of emotion, is what I mean. Like with the rest of the film, he's just talking to a volleyball. You're not necessarily connecting with Wilson that much.
Yeah, but without that, then it doesn't make it sad.
He's gone. That's when it's sad.
Yeah, but you have surely that's incorrect, because in order to feel sad that he's gone, there must have been a prior connection.
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I just think that peak of emotion at the end is where people remember Wilson the most.
But James,
one of the things that you brought up, Emma, is like, oh, that bit where Wilson goes away, one of the saddest death scenes ever. That's the bit you will remember about that character. Yeah, he's a ball, but that character is what you remember the most.
but you have to appreciate as a screenwriter, James, what a genius idea. How do we get some dialogue in a film where there's only one beeping bloke in the whole film? Volleyball.
I think Silence of the Lambs is actually a bit more than a thriller. I think it's a horror, personally. I know some people don't agree.
That's a whole other can of worms.
That's like, come on, that's a staple of horror thrillers. And The Castaway is a good family-ish film.
Right. So, shall we get to the voting, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeah.
I think we want to finish before midnight.
Yeah. Noah.
Hello.
Which film are you voting for?
I, James Harrison, will be voting for Jonathan Demme's Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs gets 1 point. Jimmy Bennett.
Oh, I just can't believe next.
What film are you voting for?
I will go for. I will also go for The Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs gets 2 points.
By a hair.
Emma, what film are you voting for?
Castaway.
Castaway.
Hmm.
For Emma. What a surprise.
Young.
And if very expectedly, the boy James is voting for Silence of the Lambs. So,
Ooh.
in heat number 1 of our bracket royale, Silence of the Lambs moves on, and Castaway is our first defeat.
Bloke called Michael Mann exists. He's a director. And he decides to make a remake of a television film he made from the 80s. And he decides to do it again under the name, it was called LA Takedown, sorry. Yeah. And he decides to remake this certain film called Heat, but he's going to make it into a film. And he's also going to chuck in Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Tom Sizemore, remember him? A veteran LAPD guy, played by Pacino, and his rivalry with a career thief, played by Robert De Niro. 2 actors at the top of the game in this, you could say. And it's just about their personal differences. It's about their lives, their interactions with their crew, or De Niro's interaction with his crew and their lives. And it's just this amazing film where it's kind of like you get 2 sides of it. You get it's split in half, really, between a lot of stuff to do with Al Pacino's character Vincent Hanna and Robert De Niro's character Neil McCauley, and you learn so much about them and their lives, and they're basically the same person, really, just on different sides of the law.
I watched it again recently with my brother-in-law, who had never seen it and said, "Show me something good pre-2000," because he doesn't like films pre-2000. And as I was sat there watching it with him, I was like, bloody hell, this film is actually fantastic. I thought it was a 4-star film, without a doubt a 5-star film. I think I was seeing the director's cut for the first time too, maybe, in Blu-ray. So I was like, and yeah, it's a good pick.
How can we not mention that shootout? Probably one of the best shootouts in cinema.
Probably the best.
This is a film that I have almost put on this year about 4 times, and I just haven't done it yet. I will probably watch it by the end of this year, but I still have not seen it.
I haven't seen it all the way through, but I have seen it. When films are on and you walk in and you just sit and you watch it like halfway through, or the beginning bit, and you've got stuff to do. So yeah, I've seen bits of it, but not the whole thing.
Have you seen the bangy bangy bit?
No.
Ah, ha 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 ha.
Have you? Oh, I know for a fact, in a lecture we watched dialogue scene in the diner between Al Pacino and Robert De Niro.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah.
A famous, very famous scene. It was literally just a conversation, but it is filmed to perfection by Michael Mann.
And I'll tell you what, it's not a short conversation either, but heck does that keep your interest for the entire 5 or so minutes.
Yeah, the bit about his dreams. I always remember that line, you know, when they're around the table.
Well, Jimmy, have you got a greater film?
Well, I have a film that I think we've all seen, which might tell you what you need to know from the off. But yes, Stanley Kubrick. It's always a good start, isn't it? Stanley Kubrick, 1968. He decides, I want to make a science fiction film. And what does he do? He teams up with a little known science fiction author called Arthur C. Clarke. And they together kind of come up with 2001: A Space Odyssey, and an Odyssey it is. Let's summarize the plot briefly. We start off at the dawn of man, where a couple of monkeys are living in absolute fear. A big group of monkey men are living in absolute fear of everything. It's dark and scary all the time. There's not much food about. The water is scarce. They're being bullied by leopards and that sort of thing. This sounds rubbish when you describe the plot, but and then they wake up one morning and there's a giant black obelisk, a monolith, some would say, which plays opera music at them for a few minutes, and they go a bit nuts. And then the next morning, the main character for that bit, a guy called Moonwatcher, not Moonwalker, as I often say. That's a Michael Jackson thing. He's playing with a bone and an animal carcass, and he starts like flipping it about. The classic music starts playing, bwah, 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 bwah. And he smashes the thing, and it's intercut with like shots of a tapir being dropped. And basically, man has learnt he can use tools, which is a giant leap for mankind. And then in one of the best jump cuts of all time, he chucks it up into the air, and it jump cuts to what is actually a missile defense platform, but not many people know that, because it's the evolution of man's weaponry throughout time. There's a link there, and then suddenly we're a few million years later. We're in, you guessed it, 2001, and then this story follows. They find a monolith on the moon. A guy called Dr. Hayward Floyd goes and takes a look at it, and then that starts sending a message, a signal, which is coming from Jupiter, just off Jupiter. And then we follow a couple of astronauts who are on a mission to go find this monolith off Jupiter. But then all sorts of crazy shit starts happening. You won't believe what happens, and I'll leave it a mystery in case you've not seen it. If somebody said to you, give me an example of film as art, like what would constitute film as art? For a lot of people, they go to the 2001: A Space Odyssey. Every frame could be your screensaver on your computer. The cinematography is insanely good. Literally every frame has been carefully structured to be symmetrical, and it's awe-inspiring. The special effects in 1968, this is 10 years before Star Wars. People would have been absolutely blown away by seeing the spaceships. The models look fantastic. Even now they look good. It's just absolutely breathtaking. It's a real study in filmmaking, screenwriting, and everything. And he is massively inspirational for film, gone on to inspire loads of filmmakers. I think you'd struggle to find any filmmaker, at least within science fiction, who is not inspired by 2001: A Space Odyssey in some way.
Am I a fan of 2001: A Space Odyssey? I think that's a difficult question to answer, because there are parts in it where it's confusing. Yeah. There's a lot going on. The narrative is a bit muddled on purpose.
It asks a lot of questions and then doesn't give you any answers.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite an out there film.
What's the ending about? Who knows?
That's the one thing that's got me on the edge, because I don't understand the ending. But are you supposed to?
Yeah. I only get it because I've read the book.
And he is also, from what I've seen, good film. Got some good acting in it, some good scenes. Interesting. Yeah, James, tell me your thoughts.
2001. I mean, I think there is everything has been said about that movie, and yet there are so many more questions that it could answer that we haven't even asked yet, which is a bit nutty for a movie made in 1968. Whereas one movie is much more straightforward and focuses on traditional narrative structure and acting and effects and thrills. 2001 chooses instead to focus more on its themes, its production design, and just an overall feeling. I don't really want to let my bias go ahead and say, oh yeah, 2001 was better because I've seen it. Because, you know, I know it's great because I've seen it, but...
So 2001, okay, everyone's touched on it. Jimmy touched on it. Everyone else here has. Yeah, it's pretty good. Like, there's no denying. I think I would choose a couple more films of Stanley Kubrick's to watch than this film, though. I think because I want more... I find myself more like engrossed in films like Eyes Wide Shut, The Shining.
You can drink and talk over Heat and still really enjoy it. If you did that through 2001, I think you'd struggle. So, which I think I've just attacked my own film.
Should we take it to a vote?
Yeah, let's take it to a vote.
Yeah.
Let's continue on.
Well, I think I've decided I'm voting Heat. So.
No, I'm voting Heat.
I'm voting 2001.
Thank you. James?
This is tough. This is actually difficult. Even though it's a film I've seen and a film I've not seen, both of your arguments have proven that picking one or the other may be difficult. I feel like it would be sacrilege to not vote 2001. But I'm sorry, Noah.
So we come to Jimmy for the decider.
Well, it's tough. Noah, you know I love Heat. You know I love everything about that film, and that I was blown away watching it again recently. But it's not my favourite film of all time, which is 2001: A Space Odyssey. So 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Fantastic.
Or Odyssey.
Oh yeah. All right. I don't mind.
But for round 2, Heat 2, well, not Heat actually. Heat didn't make it, but for round 2, 2001.
Yeah.
So we are Shutter Island versus Once Upon a Time in the West. So I've picked Shutter Island, which you may or may not know is actually my all-time favourite film.
Didn't know
It
that.
is 2010, Martin Scorsese. We've got, an all-star studded cast of Leonardo DiCaprio, Mark Ruffalo, and some chick called Emily Mortimer.
All-star.
So we've got our up-and-coming detective who's called Teddy Daniels. Basically been put on this case to investigate a missing person at the Shutter Island Ashcliffe Hospital. It's the full title. So it's on an island, name suggests. Patient's gone missing. It's sort of a mental institution, and the whole thing is trying to find out what's happened. And we get a couple of spooky bits here and there, and we think something maybe isn't quite right. And something isn't quite right. There are some secrets that unravel. I think it's one of the best thrillers, and I think this film has the biggest rewatch value of any films I think I've ever seen. Because the more you watch, the more there's uncovered, because once you know the story, you're looking out for things left, right, and centre. And I think the film is awesome because it creates this controversy around the ending, because what is the ending? It can be taken in different ways by different people, and you can really have this debate of what is the ending? What does it mean? And I think that's such a key staple of a film, that you can sit and you can talk and you can debate about it, and everyone can come away with different things. It's similar to like Inception, where you're like, is he in a dream or is he not? So it's kind of like that, but there's a deeper level to it, because if you believe one thing, it sort of changes the story and the character of Teddy and who he is and how he acts and reacts. So I think it's a really interesting piece.
Nice.
I saw this film many a moon ago when I was little. Wait, do we need Jimmy to talk first, or do you want?
You go for it. You're in.
Viewing experience was a little bit hampered by my mother. Halfway through, spoilers film, she says, "I reckon he might actually be the insane one." And so I was just like, "Oh, that makes a bit of sense." And then come around to the end, that's kind of what the twist is. And I've never watched it since. So, but I have been really meaning to give it another go ever since my mother sort of
ruined your viewing experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. Much like Noah, I have not seen it in some time, but I did remember enjoying it when I first watched it.
I did enjoy it, by the way.
Thank
I
you.
did enjoy it. I don't know if I elaborate.
Thank you.
Shutter Island does some things better than others in terms of like narrative structure, but I think that's just down to personal opinion. But I do remember really enjoying it when I first saw it. So yeah.
The thing about Martin Scorsese, he's just so
enjoyable.
amazing.
The first sort of glimpse you get of the film is a crime detective drama, and it shifts and it sort of crosses over genres. I think it's really interesting.
Well, I'll just very quickly say I, like James and Noah, also watched Shutter Island a long time ago. I thought it was pretty awesome. But is it Once Upon a Time in the West? No. Yeah, let's jump to another completely different film then. Let's jump back to 1968. It was a good year, wasn't it? In Europe, there was a thing going on called spaghetti westerns by a guy called Sergio Leone, who made the Dulles trilogy. And then after that, he was like, I'm a make one more. But this time, he mixed up the cast with Charles Bronson in our lead role and Henry Fonda as our villain. Ooh. Now, how's that for a cast, ladies and gentlemen? It's about, basically, it starts off with a family who are living right on the fringes of civilization. And they are brutally massacred by Henry Fonda. And then the widow of the patriarch of that family arrives. Nobody knew they got married. And she fights to sort of keep the land, as it were, and to keep her life together. As meanwhile, a stranger arrives at the train station who plays the harmonica. That is all we know him as. He is harmonica. And he has a past with Henry Fonda's character, Frank. And slowly throughout the film, we find out why this guy has come to town and why he wants to kill Frank, basically. Featuring a score by Ennio Morricone. I think it's the greatest score of all time, honestly. What you have is the greatest revisionist Western of all time. It's a film that, much like 2001 in a lot of ways, it tackles the biggest themes. You know, what is it to survive in an environment that is harsh? What is it to move on from grief? What is power? And beautifully told in terms of cinematography and presentation. And that's what you're left with, a film that will stick with you. You'll be crying, you'll be laughing, you'll be singing along with the soundtrack, and that's what you're left with when it ends. Dan, 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 dan.
How long is the film?
Nearly 3 hours. I think it's about 2 hours 40.
Oh my!
We love our long films, don't we?
Just a little bit longer than 2001: A Space Odyssey. Because this film is such an epic.
Yeah,
it's like saying, you know, Ben-Hur could be a bit shorter. It's not, but
I mean, I do agree with that as well.
Gone with the Wind could be an hour shorter.
Also agree with that.
But I don't think there's. I think you'd be hard pressed to point out a scene in Once Upon a Time in the West and go, why is that in here?
Yeah, I think really interesting. I think like spaghetti westerns. You know, Western as a whole. Who doesn't love to sit and watch a Western?
My favourite genre.
Well, James hasn't seen many, so somebody doesn't.
If you don't like Westerns, though,
you won't like this
film. No, this is the film that will make you like it. Because it's not it's not about people shooting each other for 2 hours. It's
more complex within the genre.
It's about tragedy. It's about loss. It's about moving on.
I'm much similarly to Shutter Island. Saw this many a moon ago. I believe I was actually at secondary school, even younger. Like, it was one of those days where you don't go into school because you don't want to and you pretend to be ill, I think. And this film, because it's still in my collection, actually, I believe it belonged to my dad. I've just got it. But anyway, I only watched it the one time on this day. And the soundtrack, I've heard more times since I watched it, and I'm like, oh God, this is beautiful, isn't it? Like that. The actual theme, ding, 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 ding. And then you got the harmonica song. That's a brilliant bit of music.
Shall we head it to a vote then? Are we ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. I'll kick us off and I'll vote for Shutter Island.
Oh,
fair.
Why?
I just think, I mean, it's my ultimate favourite film.
It's a favourite film.
And I just think the rewatch value is outstanding. And I think the ending for me is one of the biggest things that stands out for me, because I think you can chat with someone about the ending and everybody's got an opinion on it. So, yeah.
Down, down.
Go for Once Upon a Time in the West.
I've got to. It is my joint favourite film of all time.
That's nice that we put our favourite film.
It is nice. And it has a corker of an ending as well, which I won't ruin because James might watch it one day.
Yeah, I probably will.
But you will be crying in this film.
So, James?
This kind of goes back to the previous thing about 2001 versus Heat, because it's a film which is apparently very good, which I haven't seen, against a film which I think is good, which I have seen.
Fair enough.
Maybe you should watch.
You know what, I might go for Shutter Island.
Okay.
I think I will do so.
So for our final vote here, Noah.
Ooh, you've come to me at a very awkward time here, Emma.
Sorry, do you want to come back at
I'm still deciding in my brain,
okay.
but I guess I can think out loud.
Yes, please.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah.
So yeah, both films I saw when I was a wee nipper. So both films I really want to rewatch at some point in the near future. But if I had to say pick one out of what I've seen clips of fuss after I watched it, la-di-da-da, and what soundtrack I like quite a lot from this particular film, I would probably have to pick Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West, which I know takes it to 2-2.
So here we are in the tiebreaker 30-second argument round, because this is something that we definitely prepared for. So your arguments must be condensed down to just a mere 30 seconds, and I want you to not repeat yourself as much as possible. 30 seconds on the clock for Emma. 3, 2, 1, go.
Shutter Island is a masterpiece of a film. Not only does it have a masterpiece of a cast, but it also has one of the greatest American film directors in history, Martin Scorsese. It has one of the most spine-tingling plots. We have an atmosphere that is created from day dot, straight from the first scene, and that continues. There is no lingering point that dips. We're left in constant suspense, mystery, and twists and turns. And even in the end, we're never left with a full answer. So,
and there we go.
Wow, that 30 seconds is quite quick, actually, isn't it?
It is very quick. So here we are. Jimbo, it is now your turn.
Yeah,
Jimbo.
Try to convince Noah and James. 3, 2, 1.
If you want to watch a film that will leave you with a soundtrack that you just can't get out of your head for years to come, not 2001. Once Upon the West is a great pick. Outstanding cinematography, fantastically staged, truly epic, fantastic performances, characters that you will feel every ounce of emotion from. If you want to see the American experience through the eyes of an immigrant, which Sergio Leone was, there is no film that sums up every aspect of life in such a beautifully emotional way.
Yeah,
I think I struggled a bit there. But,
well, there we go. So, Noah, what do you think of those two arguments? Who do you think is stronger?
Yeah, both very compelling arguments. Would you agree, James?
I think they were both very good. I personally am leaning to one more than the other, only due to the fact that with 30 seconds you've got to condense your thoughts into a very short amount of time. And
I got the name.
As I said going into it, you don't want to run the risk of repeating yourself, because then you're just kind of being like, oh, this is just the points I made again, which we already voted for, and we ended up at a stalemate. So providing a bit more insight. One argument, I think, strengthened in the second half, whereas one argument kind of stayed consistent, and then it had one good point at the end.
Well, Jimmy did have a stumble at the beginning, but I don't think we can look down on them for that.
No, because there's 30 seconds. You can only do so much in that time.
Touché.
If you were to go with one, Noah, who would you go?
Emma's was very eloquent and very well done, and Jimmy's was sort of repetitive, but still, he still got like his main arguments out there.
I think Emma explained in the 30 seconds far more concisely and pointedly than I did, to be honest. But don't let that influence your decision.
Oh yeah.
Let's go with Emma.
And so
Shutter Island.
after a very brief stalemate, we have now come to the decision that Shutter Island moves on.
Brings us into our final
This is going to be interesting.
of our first round.
We're still on the first round.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Okay.
We have Mulholland Drive versus Men in Black. Who'd like to take us away?
On
one hand we have chalk, on the other we have cheese.
Let me take you back in time to 2001, not the film. So surrealist director David Lynch is doing another film. He's doing a film called Mulholland Drive off the back of quite a good period of filmmaking for himself. His original plan was for it to be a TV series again, much similar to Twin Peaks. He ended up actually filming half of it, and the production guys were like, "No, we don't want a TV series here." So he said, "All right, I'll just finish off a 2-hour film then with what I've got." So he did, and it's Mulholland Drive. And what is Mulholland Drive about, I hear you ask? Well, he summarizes up, and with quite a nice quote, actually. A love story in a city of dreams. That's in it a bit differently to how the average viewer might see it. So yeah, it's David Lynch, so it's a bit surreal and it's a bit weird, but basically it follows the story of Naomi Watts, played by Betty Elms. Naomi Watts in her breakout performance, I'd say.
Hold on, you just said Naomi Watts played by Betty Elms.
Betty Elms played by Naomi Watts in her breakout performance. The less you know about the story, honestly, the better. But it's got Justin Theroux, Louis Theroux's cousin, in it. It's also got Robert Forster very briefly, and it's got one of the best horror scenes of any film possibly ever. It's kind of like a romantic Hollywood of the 1940s, but imagine it being done by David Lynch in 2001. So it's just an extraordinary piece of work, really. Very different to Men in Black. I'd say. I don't think that's controversial. Yeah, who has seen it here?
I haven't, no.
Oh.
But I do have a question actually to ask you before. So you said when we were talking about 2001, you said that you would pick other Stanley Kubrick films. Would you pick other David Lynch films, or is this like your David Lynch film?
Yeah, this is the David Lynch film.
Got you.
For me.
Well, yeah, that was all I wanted to add. Anyone else?
I also have not seen it.
Right. I guess we'll talk about Men in Black.
Okay, right. Yeah, I really do recommend you watch it. It's one where with each passing rewatch, you will get more and more out of it. More, you will feel a bit more. You might be like, oh wow, this is actually incredible.
I do love I've seen a clip and I love the bit where the guy's chest opens and a little alien goes, "Off the shoulder of Orion." Oh no, that's Men in Black.
Oh, great segue.
Right, okay.
On that note.
Right. Men in Black.
Men in Black, Galaxy Defenders, everybody. So 1997, going back to 1 year before James was born, there was a sci-fi comedy movie starring Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith. And I think it is probably one of the best written movies ever made. And I say that with complete sincerity. Men in Black is about the Men in Black. They're an undercover organization who monitors extraterrestrial activity on Earth, as Rip Torn so eloquently puts it, and is basically about a world-ending threat. There is a big bug monster played by Vincent D'Onofrio who's coming and just eat some people and kind of take over the world. And who's got to stop him? It's got to be the Men in Black. Of course it has. and it has to be. And so they have a new recruit in Will Smith as Agent J, and he is a bit out of the box choice. No one really wants him on the team, but Tommy Lee Jones says, no, actually, this guy is exactly what we need. Conceptually, he's a lot of fun. Like, even with films of its ilk beforehand, like, obviously the big comparison to this is like, oh, it's Ghostbusters, but with aliens. That's probably the biggest comparison you can make. However, I think not only is this film better than that, I think it is a lot more stronger with its character work and emotion, because this film surprisingly gets very heartfelt throughout, with moments where you're just sort of like, that's actually quite sad.
Who directed this?
This was directed by Barry Sonnenfeld.
Baza.
Yeah, Baza.
Jerry's brother.
Yeah, so he, most well known, other than Men in Black, he directed the Addams Family movies from the 90s.
Good films.
Both good movies. He also directed my guilty pleasure, Wild Wild West, which I'm not saying is a good movie. It's not, but it is basically Men in Black, but in the Wild West.
Men in Black is definitely a fun movie. I don't think anyone can deny that. It's good fun. It's family fun, and you do feel entertained the whole way through. So yeah, that's what I have on Men in Black.
I've had no inclination to watch this film ever since I was little. If I ever watched it when I was little, I don't remember. I'd just rather watch Jumanji or something like that, mate.
I have seen Men in Black, yes. Many times. It was one of the first DVDs we had in our house. I've not seen it, though, in at least 10 years, maybe more. I've also seen Men in Black 2 a lot. Yeesh. I loved Men in Black growing up. I don't have a massive amount of affinity for it, though, as a film, if I'm perfectly honest. I think it's quite funny. I think it's got some quite good action sequences. From what I remember, the effects are also quite good. Right.
Just in the interest of time, and if you do win, you'll want to keep this argument.
Well, in that case, no one's going to vote for me, are they? Because they haven't seen my film.
No, you don't know that.
Don't pay the kitty
I don't think you know that for sure, because you put up a very good argument.
Let's go to James first, I think.
I didn't even mention the soundtrack, by the way, by Angelo Badalamenti.
Right.
There you go.
I didn't mention the soundtrack, by the way, by Danny Elfman.
By Will Smith. Well,
and Will Smith. I didn't even mention the
Here comes the Man in Black.
Will Smith is really annoying. Naomi Watts isn't.
Go on then, James.
Great closing argument. Wait, am I going first?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, as surprising with no one with everyone's pick, they voted for themselves, so I'm going to do the same.
Cool.
I will also be doing the same, surprisingly.
Cool. Jimmy?
Very quickly, I'll take you through my dilemma of a thought process. Very similar to James earlier. Do I pick a film that I know is pretty good, or do I pick a David Lynch film, which I know I'll either love, like Blue Velvet, or hate, like Eraserhead? But I'm a gambler. I'm a risky man. I'm going to go for the one that could potentially give me more happiness or more depression. I'm going to go for Mulholland Drive.
Wow.
My thought is down exactly the same line. Am I that enamored by Men in Black? No. But do I think it's a fun movie? Yes. Have I seen Mulholland Drive? No. Did I enjoy Blue Velvet? Yes. Did I enjoy Eraserhead? Definitely not. So I'm literally in the exact same boat as Jimmy, and he swam away. So do I follow him, or do I take my own path? And that got surprisingly deep.
For
no reason. So, and I have to say, Mulholland Drive has been on my watch list for a while, and I have seen the trailer. I know we can't go off trailers. And I am really, really sorry, James. I am going to go for Mulholland Drive.
That's fair. That's all right.
Noah, you had me at Angelo Badalamenti.
Right, which means we go on to our second round.
Do you like me to go first?
You look ready with a pen in your hand. You can go first.
I didn't know pen equals readiness. So,